The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, that salary review of the public service still a bone of contention tonight. This as the OPM tries to clean it up. Also tonight, former Deputy Prime Minister Brent Simonet says the F&M, despite of its 2 by-election losses, is in a perfect position to win the upcoming general election. Simonet also calling on former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis to step aside, resign. Simonet very vocal in the last 24 hours. We take a look. And as if this election season couldn't get any more interesting, Rick Fox is at it again, saying he will run in the 2026 general election. Questions: with which party? Another question: where? This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, public service, our servants rather, are now seeing the long-awaited salary adjustments in their accounts. But the rollout has triggered mixed reactions. Tonight, the Office of the Prime Minister is providing a detailed breakdown of who got what. Here is Communications Director in the Office of the Prime Minister, Latrey Ramming, on the matter this afternoon.
Yesterday, over 17,000 civil servants received their salary review adjustment. This fulfilled the Prime Minister's commitment that the payments would be made before Christmas. The purpose of this exercise was to close the gap between salaries in the public service to the quasi-public sector. The total amount of payments annualized is $20 million, and over the last 4 years, this administration has provided over $60 million in salary adjustments for public officers. The salary component of the government's budget growing fastest over the last 4 years as the government invests in its greatest resources as employees. In the 2024-2025 budget communications, the Prime Minister announced the salary review for senior public officers. This was a complex undertaking, so it was planned to be executed over multiple budget cycles. In doing this exercise, care was taken to ensure that all industrial agreements which were in place with the public service unions were honored and promotions exercise were continued as normal. Outside of a union negotiated wage increase, this is the first government-initiated salary review exercise in over 20 years. Questions have been raised with respect to the size and timing of the payouts. However, these questions cannot be answered in isolation. To properly understand the government's commitment to equity within the public service, salary adjustments over the last 4 years have to be considered, as well as the objective of this exercise. With respect to the latter point, a decision was made to start with senior and middle managers, as they had the widest degree of discrepancies weighted against the quasi-public service. On a percentage basis, the lower level staff benefited the most from the exercise as fixed increments were provided. For example, an employee in the M6 scale who was making minimum wage in January 2022 would have experienced an increase in salary of 27.5% through wage adjustments excluding increments. For a trained teacher, the increase would have been 19.8%. In addition, the latest increase of $1,400 would be equivalent to the largest annual increase given to any trained teacher in the BUT's latest industrial agreement. For a deputy permanent secretary, a middle manager, they would have experienced an increase of 15.8%. Now let me speak to the Prime Minister's wider record. Since 2021, civil servants have received a salary increase every single year under this administration. That level of consistency has not been seen in more than a decade. Teachers and nurses receive upgraded salaries, higher allowance.
Again, today, that is Communications Director in the Office of the Prime Minister, Latrey Raming, on the government's, as he said, in the first time in decades, wide-scale salary review of the public service. And he just sort of break down there the various areas and disciplines that got this. And it's a lot more, but of course, we're not going to play that entire soundbite for you. But we're going to actually discuss it. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Beyond the Headlines contributors, Cassius Stewart, Ellington Ferguson. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you.
Good evening, Shanique.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. Thank you for having me once again.
Well, let me say good evening, Bahamas, Freeport, Grand Bahama, all through Auckland and Crooked Island. I miss you all.
Yes. Good. Hello to my pal, everybody. Yes, Cassius. It's good.
I love you all.
Right. It's good
Yes.
that you acknowledged everybody. Everybody, welcome to the show. Pull up a chair. Let's just get
They
started.
tell me they watch all the time.
They absolutely do,
Yes.
and I'm grateful to them, Cassius. They absolutely watch all the time, and this is near and far. I mean, people in Sweden watch. It's a few European countries that don't come to mind right now. Thank you all for watching, including the UK. Thank you all so much, gentlemen. Though, let's get to this. Let's get to this and what's happening, because this has become a huge mess. Something that was presented as an effort to help ease the burden of inflation and Bahamians having to get into their pocketbooks and pay out more, and the squeeze of what the cost of living in the Bahamas have been doing to anyone, regardless of where on the pay scale you are. This was this effort to say, outside of any union and bargaining agreements, let's kind of adjust the salary scales here. But you all see it's really been met with a bit of antagonism. In fact, yesterday and even today, we saw headlines stating, not enough, chicken feed, an insult, really. Let's just jump in right there, gentlemen. You heard Latrey Raming a moment ago. Your thoughts on how this sort of just kind of lost the focus and the intention of what it was meant to do?
This, Shanique, at this juncture in our country, as we seek to lift the grades and especially education, and we seek to bring the wider public scale up to par. First of all, let me commend the government for taking on the task, which I understand that governments in the past kind of hesitate to because of the undertaking of it. And they stated within their statement that it was something that was supposed to stretch across several budget cycles. It's very unfortunate that those that are involved that would talk about striking at this point. I know that they have an industrial agreement which was signed some 3 years ago. I think it's up for renegotiation next year. I think that there is a different way that we can do this. We see Latrey Raming just now laying out the time since this has been done. We understand why the government take the approach. They clearly outline why they dealt with middle management first, because their disparity from their peers in the quasi-government was much larger. And so they sought to do it across the board. You hear the figures that they threw out. I don't see what the reason to have to talk about strike. I mean, to shut down schools, shut down the country for what? For something that is doing that all of the points you may not have clearly, whereas you have a negotiating position at the table within a few months. I just don't think it makes sense. It doesn't add up. What is going on? What is the reason? What is the agenda here?
Well, Shanique, I've been sick of the unions from Pat Bain time. And you know, Pat Bain died a little while back. He was my friend. Well, let's take a look at this from a different perspective, from a different angle. The unions have been around for more than 40 years. One lady texted me and told me she paid the union dues for 40 years, $25. Given that you have about 17,000 people in the union, when you look at that, that's $5 million a year. So these unions are bringing in $5 million a year. In 40 years, people listen to this, $250 million these unions have collected. Now tell me why anyone in the union broke, and tell me why they marching down Bay Street singing, "We shall overcome." What they trying to overcome? It ain't the government is the problem. It's the union leaders is the problem, because what did you do with 40 years worth of $250 million? And so why didn't you take that money every year, $5 million a year, invested it in some investment vehicle so that the dividends could go into these people's bank account, so they don't have to go to Bay Street looking to the government for a $100 raise? The problem is the unions are antiquated, the leaders are antiquated. The same thing with the taxi union. All of them are antiquated. Their policies, their objectives, they're all antiquated. They need to be revisited, because if you're bringing in $5 million a year and in 40 years, $250 million, tell me why anybody on Bay Street singing you should overcome and they broke. Tell me why. Now, what we need to do now is the government need to really put some legislation to really investigate the unions. Union leaders, what are you all doing with all this money? Please, because yet you all salaries, let us know what you all doing. Put a cap on what you all doing. And then, or if all of these money is the people they're collecting, tell the people what you all doing with the money, because you're all on the government tail all the time for the last 50 years. Nobody on the government, nobody striking against the union saying, Mr. Union, President, $250 million.
Years, $250 million in over a 40-year period is a lot of money.
But let me show, I guarantee you that every union president gets paid more than any member of parliament, and I could almost bet they get paid more than the prime minister.
In excess of $100,000 a year?
I can almost bet they get paid more than the prime minister. And so the problem ain't the government, The problem is, yes, you are collecting all this money, but for what? When you go to verify, you get candy. Christmas coming and give you a little ham and turkey. But $250 million in 40 years. Tell me where that money going.
And Shanique, to think that from the last negotiation that they had in place, the agreement that they now have in place, every year since 2021, when this administration came into power, that the public service, they have been given an incremental increase every year. When upper management
but we heard some of that was even more than once a year, just to kind of, because apparently for a moment there was a break in that, in the increments, and so therefore this administration, I am told, kind of tried to double up on that to make up for the times for the few years when it wasn't happening.
And so there's money coming from a country that is stretched. You've got to understand. See, if everything is centered around New Providence, this country can do very well. But when you have to have primary teachers and secondary teachers on Acklands, then you have to repeat that on a Crooked Island, then you have to repeat that in Megwana, then you have to repeat that in Cat Island and Ragged Island. You got to understand it, the stretches of this government with all of the other agencies and all of the other things that they have to put on in these islands. And so we must be responsible citizens. We must be careful. This money don't come out of the pocket of the Prime Minister or the PLP or the FNM. This comes out of the pocket of the citizenry of this country. Every time a dollar goes up, the government have to find it from the citizenry. That's where it comes from. The citizenry of those that do business or traverse through this country.
Now, Ellington, too, on another note, though, when you really look at the expenses of the government far outweigh what we're bringing in. And so the government needs to come up with creative ways of generating revenue without putting extra pressure on Shanique, because Shanique can't take no more. So what we have to do is those expats, those foreigners who operate within our jurisdiction, we have to tax them more, find ways to tax them more without putting the extra pressure on the citizens. Now, we being squeezed left, right, and center.
But Cassius, then the government still get the pressure, because those people that are traversing or coming through here, they're involved in certain industry. And so when they cry, certain people that works in that area is going to be effective, and then they're going to cry back at the government.
Well, what they have been doing, Ellington and Cassius, I understand, let's say for example, Eleuthera, is the government has now been, and the various agencies, which I think is Inland Revenue is top of the list, has been going on those very tricky second homeowners who say, my family is visiting, but they are actually conducting Airbnb operations. Very, very lucrative, and they've been trying to zero in and crack down on those.
They has been doing a tremendous good job of that.
So that's,
I was told.
That's the point. You have to go after there's a lot of operation going on. Whether people sailing in the Bahamas, air tax, sail tax. There's a lot of
fishing,
money escaping out of the Bahamas.
Absolutely.
And so we have to find ways of locking that down without putting the excessive pressure on the citizens. I know we are squeezed, because I feel it as well too. But we have to find better ways of generating more revenue for the country so that we don't have that pressure when it's time to give a little raise to the teachers or the nurses or the doctors. Because right now, if they ask for raises, what's going to happen is the government say yes, but then the government got to find a new way of taxing.
They will ask for raises, because as Ellington pointed out, their negotiations is due next year.
You see, they got to find new ways of taxing us or pulling money from somewhere where this person can't get paid so that they could pay the other one. And so that's not how a country should be run, but that's the situation we find ourselves in.
And so watch this now. So you're saying you had this industrial agreement in place that you signed 3 years ago, and I remember it. Everybody were happy. They were saying it went well and it was so good. Okay, now you come where the government in between say, you know what? I need to adjust the salary of these people. The government is giving them a raise. You know your industrial agreement is up for discussion next year. You think the union is going to say, well, the government just give us something. Even if the government give a little more, they're going to go there next year and say, well, we don't need nothing because you just give us something. So, I mean, where is it going to come from? They're going to go next year into their industrial negotiations expecting to add on top of what they're getting now. I could promise you that.
Well, you know,
when they sit at the table, they're going to want on top of what they're getting now. And more than 9 out of 10 times, sorry, Cassius, but they are going to get it. They are going to get it, so we've got to be responsible. My point is the threat of industrial actions to put teachers on strike, nurses on strike. Question, does teachers deserve more money? I believe so. Does nurses deserve more? Doctors deserve? I definitely believe so. But we've got to grow as we go to bring it up to par as a small country, as a small developing nation.
Striking don't make no sense. So teachers striking don't make no sense.
It hurts us more than anything else.
It hurts the country, but what really happens is that we have to reevaluate what we've been doing. We pay $25 a month to the unions. Why don't we split that in half and force the government, force them to put that in a savings account? So after 40 years, you can get that money.
Why have not unions decided they're going to, as you say, half the union dues and make it into a savings for the members?
See, Singapore does a forced savings account so that when everyone retires, they have a slush fund to work with.
Something wonderful to look
But right
forward
now,
to.
there's nothing. People saying the woman was on town she only got $3 in the bank account. What's that all about? You've been working all these years and you only got $3, so what you paying dues for? You should keep your dues and put it in your bank account instead of giving it to the union if you only get $3. So it don't make any sense. So going downtown don't make no sense. You're only shutting down the country, you're only hurting the country. What we need to do.
Let me address a misgiving that I noticed in this whole thing. Mm-hmm. So they're saying, as the government dealt with middle management, they gave them from September up to June of this year. September last year up to June, and they're saying they want the same thing. Because I think the government done a piss poor job of really highlighting this and explaining it to the public.
Yes.
The upper management was promised theirs in September of last year. Mm-hmm. They was promised theirs in September of last year. The government never fulfilled on that promise until about 9-10 months later. The general public service was promised theirs in September of this year. Do you want the government to hold it for 9-10 months like they hold on to the upper management on? No, they're not doing that. In less than 3 months, they're giving it they all. But the union and others are saying they want the same 10 months that the upper management gets. So that is utter foolishness. It doesn't make sense.
Maybe that was a part of the confusion?
That is a part of the confusion because they're talking about it.
They were led to believe that they are entitled to this year or 10-month sort of back pay.
Well, if you're going to get it, let the government hold yours for 10 months like they held the upper management on. That's all happened there. They didn't just automatically give them 10 months in the rear. When they were supposed to get it September of last year, government did not pay it to them until about June, July this year. Government promised you yours September, you getting it then. November.
Outdated leadership, outdated management.
It's frustrating.
Outdated. And so what happened is we find ourselves, this same scenario we find this year, we saw it last year, we saw it the year before, we saw it 20 years ago, we can see it 20 years later. Same movie,
and I don't
same
know
script.
Beef for the government, but we got to be careful how we destroy, how we handle this nation.
Same playbook. And by the way, gentlemen, as we go to this break, did the government make any missteps in this whole salary review? Good intention, but missteps. Did they?
I think the government made quite a number of missteps. The union talked about they're supposed to have access to it. I think there's a disagreement between consulting and communicating with. The government and the union have two different views on that. I think that need to be more clearer. And I just think they kind of was a little sloppy with it in the initial stages. But it's a wonderful thing that they have done, and they need to be commended on it. And they need to have ongoing discussions with the union for the little things that the union say they don't understand. But shutting down the country is not the way to go, union. I'm sorry about that.
Well, the governments always find themselves trying to promise more than they could deliver for votes and for support. I think we have to reach to the point where you have to look at what you have and don't promise more than what you got. And so when you promise in these unions that you're going to give, and you know fully well that you don't have that, you put the whole country in a bind. And so we have to be realistic when you're moving forward in terms of negotiating with the union. Let them know where we are. Say, listen, ain't no money. We ain't got no money. How will we give you what we don't have? And so we have to be realistic. Then open up the union bank account and see what they got.
Gentlemen, but they got a lot. Gentlemen, listen, Brent Simonet says the F&M, despite its losses, its recent losses, 2 by-elections, is in an ideal position to actually win the 2026 general election. Also, Rick Fox, not sitting by quietly. No way. Rick Fox says he is running. Who with? We're going to talk about that after the break.
Get ready, Grand Bahama. It's the Black Friday deal you've waited all year for. This Friday, November 28th, Grand Bahama Tiles is dropping a 26% off store-wide sale. That's all tiles, all materials, 26% off. It's one day with huge savings and the perfect time to stock up and save big. So don't walk, run to catch this one-day Black Friday sale. Call 352-7920.
Welcome to Sunburst Super Christmas Sale, where you buy 5 and get 1 free. Prices start at just $28.95 for top quality wall paints and high gloss oil paints for $55.95 a gallon. Lucky customers get a chance to win a 42-inch TV every Saturday starting now. The drawing will take place at Sunburst Paints the first week of December. You can also have a chance to win one of 2 65-inch TVs during the month of December. So hurry on down to Sunburst Paints on Harold Road, where you buy 5 and get 1 free. Happy holidays, everybody!
It's Christmas time at Grand Bahama Tiles with 5 days of savings you don't want to miss. Starting this Saturday, November 29th, get 25% off all tiles in stock. Then on Monday, December 1st, savings drop to 24% off. Ending Thursday, December 4th with 21% off. The early bird really catches the worm this Christmas as savings drop each day. Hurry down for early Christmas savings at Grand Bahama Tiles. Call them at 352-7920.
Then to get sassy, so you ain't gonna bring in this yard.
Let's go drive.
Listen, man, you know how much coconut I got in steel, man?
Let's go.
Instead.
Boy, you lock up.
Sergeant.
Instead.
Who is sassy, so?
They tell me I can borrow sassy Sue, the sassy Sue.
Sarge, I ain't telling me you can touch my boat.
Everybody lock up. Best of the best is back on Montague Foreshore from December 4th to December 7th, so I can see you there.
Get ready, Grand Bahama. It's the Black Friday deal you've waited all year for. This Friday, November 28th, Grand Bahama Tiles is dropping a 26% off store-wide sale. That's all tiles, all materials, 26% off. It's one day with huge savings and the perfect time to stock up and save big. So don't walk, run to catch this one-day Black Friday sale. Call 352-7920.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay Eden well.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you tuned in this evening. Former Deputy Prime Minister Brent Simonet is suggesting boldly that despite the Free National Movement's losing both the 2023 West, Grand Bahama and Bimini by-election and, of course, this week's Golden Isles election, the party remains in a strong position to win the 2026 general election. Simonet claims the governing Progressive Liberal Party had to throw every resource into securing those 2 seats and argues that when the entire country goes to the polls, that level of concentrated push will not be possible. He believes the national outcome will be far less favorable for the PLP.
Get the hype. The government threw all of its bureaucracy and its power and its might into Golden Isles, and only 49% of the electorate turned out. The candidate went backwards in terms of number of votes for the last election. So while it might be that Mr. Pitstock was the first past the post and he'll become the MP, I don't put that much weight in that, because when you go into a general election, he will not have that structure and that bureaucracy of the party, the PLP party, behind him to win the next general election. He'll be on his own because everyone will be trying to win their own seats.
No, I'm trying to say.
Bimini was an earlier victory. I would have thought at the moment Mr. Davis, as leader of the PLP, and his advisors should be very concerned about the next general election, because the effect of the COI is taking some votes out, and the fact that the very low voter turnout, and if you add the COI and the FNM, I think they got more votes than the PLP. I think they should be focusing on that. And Mr. Brown has a good opportunity of winning the next election, and it will send a message that the voters in this country have changed, and the next election will not be same old same.
Well, Simonet says that based off of the Coalition of Independents' performance in Monday's by-election, it proves the PLP does not have the will or will not have an easy way to victory in 2026. Now, Cassius and Ellington, of course, you all heard the former Deputy Prime Minister a moment ago saying, listen, really pay not that much attention to West Grand Bahama and Golden Isles. The PLP brought everything to bear, and so, okay, it proved favorable for them, but they will not have such luxury in 2026 because every man is for themselves then. Your thoughts about how he sort of summed up Monday's results?
I know what kind of weed he's smoking, but that don't make no sense to me, because you get beat in 2 elections. I don't care how you put it. See, in democracy, we have a system called democracy. If 5,000 people register to vote, and only 5 come out to vote, and 5 voted for me, I win. Doesn't matter. The rest of them don't count. So I don't care how you have your statistical gymnastics and your psychological analyzing just to make yourself feel good, but, oh, he only get 49%. The rest didn't count.
Don't count.
The only one who counted is the ones who show up to vote. That's the system we working with. So don't come tell me that, oh, well, they stand a good chance. You get beat once, you get beat twice. I suspect even if that was St. Anne's, they probably would have get beat. And so because people are voting for the leader, if they don't have no confidence in the leadership, then they ain't gonna vote for you. And so while they complain, the FNM didn't have the attractiveness to pull people out to vote. The PLP had more attractiveness because more people came out to vote. Now, granted, you still had more to go, but when you look at the last election, 68,000 people did not vote. 65,000 voted for the PLP, 45 voted for the FNM. So more people who did not vote voted for either one. But it doesn't matter who did not vote. Absolutely. It matters who voted. And so in the democracy that we have, if you did not show up to vote, you're in the conversation.
Absolutely.
So the 65,000 who showed up for the PLP, they're in the conversation. The 45,000 who showed up for the FNM, they're in the conversation. So don't worry about the rest of them. And so we can go through all this psychological gymnastics to make ourselves feel good because, oh, there's a possibility. The people ain't interested in voting. Why? Now, see, the question is why?
Yes.
The question is why? They don't feel the leadership for the Free National Movement, and perhaps they may have challenge with the leadership of the PLP. Now, you as a leader have the fine way of massaging the electorate to have them come out. But this young generation, they ain't interested. Because I did a poll, you know what they say? Ain't nobody making no sense. Now, I don't know what that means, but they say ain't nobody making no sense. So I need to figure out what ain't making no sense mean. Now, all of y'all who watching me, 10,000, 15,000 y'all please tell Shanique what ain't making no sense mean. So when we go into the general election, we could fix ain't making no sense.
Absolutely. I hope it's not, Ellington, a Caribbean thing, because as you all know, Jamaica is synonymous with having low voter turnout. They have roughly 2 million, maybe under 3 million citizens. But they too had, I think, 30-something percent, maybe 40-something percent voter turnout. Yes. And so I hope we don't mimic that, but people are more and more disinterested for whatever the reason is. And it's not an attractive thing. We're not giving you all and say, awesome, you're disinterested. No, participate. But that's Ellington, that's where people stand.
Well, one second. When you look at the 2012 election, 2017 election, the last election, all of them were separated by 20,000 votes. It's the 20,000 people who shift governments. 2012, it was 20,000 votes who shift the government. 2017, it was 20,000, it was 19,000. So we have a mean of 20,000 people who shift the votes. It ain't a handful of people, you know. 20,000 people switch governments for the last 5 years. I mean, I'm not sure, 4 terms. 15 years.
15, 20 years.
And so right now, the country is in a stalemate because we enjoyed a 92% voter turnout. Now we down to what? 40, 50 something percent. It's really bad. It's really bad because people aren't feeling governments. They ain't feeling members of parliament. And so for me, you know, I was telling somebody the other day, you know, we could remember Loftus Road, we could remember A.D. Hanna, Clemente Maynard. But right now, I can't even tell you who's sitting in the Senate. I don't know who they are. I mean, and I'm in politics. I don't even know. I mean, so they sit there for 5 years and you don't feel nobody's fingerprint. No. But I can still remember Loftus Road, and I can still remember Clemente Maynard, and I can still remember these guys. Well, and as a young child. And so how do you be a member of parliament for 5 years and nobody remember one thing you said? That don't make no sense to me.
Some wonderful points, Cassius, and I think everybody can sit down on Monday morning quarterback, and because both sides has its pros and its cons. You got he talked about the government bringing all they had to bear. Yes, they did. The Free National Movement tried to do that. They was not as cohesive as they could have been. I told somebody I've seen Brian Brown more hungry now than I've ever seen him. I'm very familiar with the Golden Isles constituency. However, even though I've seen Brian Brown really more aggressive, more hungry for it, I really thought he's going to do much better. I thought the voter was going to turn out was going to be better. It wasn't. I think Pickstock was more aggressive in his approach to it. You listen to his campaign. Brian Brown's claim to fame was that he was always there. He's done more for the people. All Pickstock just reached. So according to Brent Simonette, analogy, Brian Brown should have been able to capture that based on him always being there and all of this time. So we don't know what happened. Like Cassius said, people stayed away from the polls for various reasons. I've heard the Prime Minister's speech on the night of the victory. Obviously, the Prime Minister recognized that there is more work that the Progressive Liberal Party have to do. Yes, it was a sweet victory, but it ain't over there. And Pickstock recognized that, hey, you've just introduced, you have a lot of work because the general election can go different. That doesn't mean that it will go like the former Deputy Prime Minister alluded to, because both sides has a lot of work to do. The whole party of the Free National Movement need to kind of bring itself cohesive together to get to people are looking, obviously with all the fault that you say about the Progressive Liberal Party, people are not yet warming up to you because you will not present yourself as an alternative.
People don't want them. People want, I mean, really, if you really look at it, when you really look at it, you know, the Progressive Liberal Party over the last, I guess, 20 years was considered the party of the grassroots. But slowly there has been a continental shift through this new leadership that the PLP is no longer the party of the grassroots. The PLP is the party of the young professionals. It's the young doctors and the young lawyers and so on. So there's been a shift. If you go back to 2012, the FNM was considered the party of the young professionals. And so now everything is switched. And so the FNM doesn't have that professional class. The PLP now has that because, of course, you have the young professional politicians that pulled a lot of their friends and colleagues in. So the
who
PLP,
has the grassroots, Cassius?
Well, the grassroots has gone to the FNM. The FNM is a grassroots body now.
Interesting.
And so it's a continental switch. And so now what has to happen now is that, you know,
So are you sure of that, Cassius?
I think the grassroots are being neglected.
No,
I believe.
I don't think they've been neglected. I'm not sure if they've gone fully to the FNM.
Not fully, but you see there's a continental shift gradually. Because if you go from 2012 to now, you see a great change in the makeup of the Progressive Liberal Party.
I think the Progressive Liberal Party, you're right, the Progressive Liberal Party looks like how the FNM used to look.
Exactly.
They are attracting and appealing to a different kind of Bahamian, but I think that's building on their grassroots.
And so, but that was that stigma was bad for the PLP because it was good in the 1970s when the straw workers and so on they were the grassroots workers, they were your supporters. But they had children and they put their children to school. Their children are doctors and lawyers and engineers, but you can't call their children grassroots. So their children are now integrated into the PLP, and you can't call them grassroots. They are professionals now. And so you see the continental shift. And so now the PLP now has to play towards that professional class to bring more of them in and say, listen, while we started off as a grassroots party, we are the party for all, and now we're focusing on more of the professional class. The F&M has their challenges because the F&M leadership has done a significant job of running people away from the party.
What those two parties really need to do is to find out who those people are that stayed away from the poll and why they stayed away from the poll. I think that is critical. And as they go back on the ground, and Prime Minister Davis tell them all to go back in your constituencies and begin to work. He didn't even use the word continue. He said begin to work, because obviously he recognized the Progressive Liberal Party, if they're going to secure this next general election, they themselves have a lot of work to do, even in the midst of a disarrayed free national movement.
Yeah, many of them have a lot to do. But listen, you all, speaking of a lot to do, according to Brent Simonet, he said, listen, former Prime Minister and F&M leader, Dr. Hubert Minnis, whose recent comments once again fueled the narrative that he and the F&M's leadership are not on the same page, that same person, the Member of Parliament, the sitting Member of Parliament for Kalani, really needs to step aside and have less to say. In fact, Dr. Minnis, as you all remember, just yesterday said that the F&M should not have contested the recently held Golden Isles by-election, nor the one before that, the West Grand Bahama and Bimini by-election 2 years earlier. Simonet suggests that Minnis is speaking as one who doesn't support the F&M.
Well, Minnis,
let's hear what he has to say first, then we'll talk.
So that's Dr. Minnis's view. A lot of people think he shouldn't contest the next election. He should retire and go home the way most prime ministers, former prime ministers who lose an election do. So we all have our opinion. I think Dr. Minnis should either commit to being an F&M or move out the way.
Well, there you have it. Mr. Simonet said, listen, man, Dr. Minnis, go retire and go sailing, something.
You know, the problem with political parties is that they demand loyalty, they demand you to sing their songs and sing their praises, but then they treat you like crap. I mean, you can't treat Dr. Minnis like crap and expect for him to commit to you.
Yeah.
You understand? And so you want demand loyalty, but you treat your people like, I can't say that word on TV, right? You understand what I'm saying, right? And so the problem is, you got to treat people with dignity and respect if you want respect. And so Dr. Minnis have a right to say what he wants to say. I mean, he is a little misguided in saying that, you know, they shouldn't contest the election. A political party, you got to contest, whether you like it or not. But Dr. Minnis, if he wants to run, let him run. Brent Simonet, if you retire, you stay in retirement and stop making noise. Dr. Minnis, let Dr. Minnis, he's still active politician. He's a citizen. He feels like he still have a contribution. Let him make that contribution. It's the people who will determine whether he retires or not you. And so just because you then retire, you sit down and you be quiet. Let Minnis talk. I mean, me and Minnis don't go too far, but you know.
It's interesting that Dr. Minnis said he should not have contested, and Brent Simonet came out and have this to say. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram said they should not contest it, and we didn't hear anything. That's very interesting.
Yeah, how are you choosing who you push back on? Now that's, you know something, Ellington?
I frown at
good, yeah, come on now, Brent Simonet. If you feel and you entitled to your opinion, but if you can try check Minnis, why do you check Hubert Ingram?
Because you know Ingram will check him back.
They said the same thing. Oh, that's what it is. He know who to rub up. He know who to rub up.
I kind of have a problem with that. Minnis has a right as a former prime minister to speak as anybody else, as any other former prime minister that is speaking. He has a right to speak. Minnis never ever resigned from the Free National Movement. Minnis was beaten at the last Free National Movement convention. He expressed his desire to run. He was handled in a way that he is not pleased with, and obviously it's causing major friction in the Free National Movement. I've said, and I will always say, that I don't think that friction could have been avoided. And I see now, even with the new progression of things that is happening, where we may even have a second constituency in the Kalani area, that friction can be mended. Sometime for the bigger picture, we've got to put our pride aside and make things happen.
Political parties in the Bahamas demand that you kiss their behind, and if you don't kiss their behind, they figure you should be quiet. And so that's what they call it's dissentophobia. In other words, if you go against them, they will push you in the box. You ain't loyal to the party. If you challenge the leadership, oh, you're not a member, oh, you're not loyal.
That should not be.
I mean, we're a bunch of children.
Yeah.
And so the leaders, them are wacky and retarded, and they expect everybody else to act the same way. And if you challenge them and their wackiness, then you aren't leader. Let's say Michael Pinter had lost 2 elections, right? Under convention, he should have stepped down the next day. But if you tell him that, oh, you're not loyal to the party, you are not an F&M. I mean, come on, it's a bunch of ridiculous set of people. The man lost 2 elections. Going into the general election, he will lose the general election. So find another leader, simple.
Rick Fox says he will run in the 2026 general election. He's not saying much more than that.
The leader right there.
But, the what? Rick Fox is the leader? But Bahamians are feeling certain ways about his many announcements and pronouncements through his Facebook posts. Gentlemen, now while Fox is not saying a lot, Bahamians are beginning to ask, though, just what is Rick and what is he talking about? What's really happening here? Who is encouraging or inspiring his election wishes?
Well, I don't know. I think Rick got to learn one thing about the Bahamas. The Bahamas is a clannish country. We are very clannish. While we may not like each other, don't come in here as an outsider and try to rub shoulders with us.
What do you mean outsider?
But he's outside. They say he's from Canada. I see all the posts. He's from Canada. See, the problem with Rick is that because he has not really buried his navel string in the Bahamas, I mean, in terms of done things in the Bahamas and made the Bahamians feel you, we still feel like he's an outsider. And just as if you go into Auckland or Eleuthera, outsiders are not accepted. In the Bahamas itself, outsiders are not accepted. While we have our problems, F&M and PLP, if you come from the outside, we will reject you. The problem is now, he could run if he meet the qualifications. The challenge is he still have to get past the voters. And so the voters will determine whether or not he's accepted. For me, I always believe that any citizen should run. Everybody should have an opportunity to try to run because it's a nice feeling. I love it. But the problem is that you still have to get past them voters will decide whether you are accepted or rejected. And so, Rick, I know you're talking to some people, but we'll see.
Wait, who is he talking to? No, seriously, because I want to know which political organization is seriously talking to Rick.
Well, of course, they say he talking, according to Kevin Harris, he is talking against the government, then he should resign.
But wait, he has an ambassadorship from the government,
But then he should resign. So if he's talking against the government, then therefore he's talking to the opposition. And so if he's talking to the opposition, then you should not be an ambassador under the government. So, I mean, it's all speculative now. We'll see what happens in the coming days, but he wants to run. And if he's a Bahamian citizen, he has a passport, he has a right to run.
He has every right to run. But what I know is this. You don't just show up and figure you can step to the head of the line.
We clannish.
Don't do that.
Don't
Go and pay your dues. Yes, Ellington.
For somebody who rose to the high rank of the National Basketball Association, there are certain laws that governs that association. When you're in there, there's certain things you can say and cannot say. I would expect that somebody of the ilk of Mr. Rick Fox will understand and know that. Here it is, you were giving a position, being a Bahamian, we really highly and respect you, and Bahamians support you over there, what you're doing. And so you were giving up a position by the government as its ambassador. You accepted that position. You speak for the government. You put forth, speak on about the government's policy and what they're doing. You cannot now speak against the government or seek to run against the government and still expect to hold that post. Your first thing as an honorable man, you should have resigned the post. Okay? And you can't just walk and waltz in here. Bahamian are not starstruck. We welcome you home. We love to do great things. And look at the Jeff Rogers and those who have done things. We don't have quite anything that you really have contributed to the Bahamian economy that's well known. So it doesn't happen that way. I think you start off wrong, and I commend Kevin Harris for the piece that he wrote about you. I think you need to take a second look at this, step back, and reapproach. We welcome you home. Come and make a contribution as a Bahamian, and let's move forward.
Office of the Prime Minister, what y'all saying about that ambassadorship? Let's hear it.
I'm surprised that Fred Mitchell or the Office of the Prime Minister have not cancel that at this
Let's
point.
hear it, because now ain't a time to be playing dollhouse games with
This is not a banana
Bahamians.
republic.
That's all I'm saying.
This is a country that we're running.
Yeah.
And yes, you come from the big United States, but please don't look at us as
But
that.
you see, he dipped his feet in the water of power. And so therefore it's so sweet that now that he's been ambassador, he wants to get more, he wants more. And so
don't let one thing mislead you with the next. You want the headlines as well or after this?
Tiles is dropping a 26% off store-wide sale. That's all tiles, all materials, 26% off. It's one day with huge savings and the perfect time to stock up and save big. So don't walk, run to catch this one-day Black Friday sale. Call 352-7920.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
It's Christmas time at Grand Bahama Tiles with 5 days of savings you don't want to miss. Starting this Saturday, November 29th, get 25% off all tiles in stock. Then on Monday, December 1st, savings drop to 24% off, ending Thursday, December 4th with 21% off. The early bird really catches the worm this Christmas as savings drop each day. Hurry down for early Christmas savings at Grand Bahama Tiles. Call them at 352-7920.
At the Water and Sewage Corporation, safety and convenience are our top priorities. However, our meter readers face challenges that can make their job difficult. Locked gates to guard dogs sometimes leads to missed readings and estimated bills, which can be frustrating for you and us. That's why we're upgrading to digital meters. They bring safety, accuracy, and convenience to homes across the Bahamas. We can streamline data collection, reduce on-site visits, and provide more accurate bills with no more estimates. Digital meters also help detect leaks early, saving you from costly bills and reducing water waste. Soon, a user-friendly app will let you track your water usage, manage bills, and stay informed, all at your fingertips. Over the next year, we're rolling out digital meters nationwide, transforming how we serve you with a safer and cost-efficient water supply. To learn about our digital meters, visit our website or call us today. And don't forget to update your information at any of our locations.
Get ready, Grand Bahama. It's the Black Friday deal you've waited all year for. This Friday, November 28th, Grand Bahama Tiles is dropping a 26% off store-wide sale. That's all tiles, all materials, 26% off. It's one day with huge savings and the perfect time to stock up and save big. So don't walk, run to catch this one-day Black Friday sale. Call 352-7920.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram, very vocal himself. In fact, he's speaking out on that voter register in the Golden Isles constituency. You remember we heard just under 8,000 registered voters are documented. Former Prime Minister Ingram say no such thing. However, though, we get an explanation and speaking to this issue from the Parliamentary Registrar Commission, Harrison Thompson.
The interest seems to peak a little since the by-election was called. And so we're looking to see a peak. But we don't expect that much more persons to register. On our register now, we have 196,300 plus persons on the register. It's the highest the register has ever been. So we don't expect that much more persons to register.
Well, there he is. He's actually talking about the National Register, but Prime Minister Ingram says, listen, hold up, man, hold up. That Golden Isles Register sounds a bit much. Gentlemen, your thoughts about that? And I don't know, what difference does it make? Because who wanted to vote on Monday actually turned up to vote. But your thoughts about the fact that Prime Minister Ingram saying, listen, wash that register and start from scratch.
Well, the register may be dirty. I think, there are a lot of people who've been moving back and forth, moving out of the constituency and so on. So it may be overinflated. And so there may be a point there, but I think the bigger point is that I think Ingram needs to let Michael Pinter lead the F&M and really back away. I think it's time to be quiet now.
Isn't he retired now? Isn't he retired?
Retired what?
Yes,
Retired what? Retired what? You need to let Michael lead the F&M. But there may be a point in the overinflated registrant. But I think, after 50 years, we still can't clean up our register. We don't have a digital register. We don't have a system that we can monitor people when they move from different places to the next, and so on. So when people go to different government agencies, they would have to verify their address, which also affects voter registration. And so everything should be interconnected. And so the country's been led by a group of people who don't understand technology for the last 50 years, and therefore we find ourselves 25 years behind. And so the voter registration doesn't have to be the way it is. We could have cleaned it up as somebody dies when they go to the death registry and so on. That's automatically deleted off the register. And so there's ways that we can do this. And so there's technologies that we can do this. I could write code to fix that tomorrow. But of course, these people just have the same old static register, and we expect that to be sufficient. Now, I do know that this government is spending significant money on digitizing the next election, and so I think they're gonna make it a little more digital, dynamic, so that we could move in the future. But I think we've been playing with the people for a long time, and we need better leadership when it comes to the election protocols, the election registry. Just overall, the whole country is just, for me, stagnant. We're not dynamic. We're not moving in the direction we should be moving. After coming from Dubai, Shanique.
I know, because you're only talking like that because you just came from Dubai.
I went to a country now.
You cannot deal with a $1 trillion perhaps economy and figure you can bring those thoughts back here.
Shanique, we got 25 years in the future, and I was like, but it's just simple things. It's just simple things we can get right. Yeah. And so, but we have not done it to where we could interconnect all of our government agencies so that we don't have to be worrying about who on the register. And so as somebody born, once they're born, we know they're already registered. When they're in 18, they'll be able to vote. And so we have to be able to create systems that grows with people.
And track those things.
And so, but we need leadership that understands how to integrate technology into the whole system. And so, but the problem is we don't have that leadership. And that's the challenge we find.
I'm sure, each administration has an idea of what it is they want to do. You mentioned the biometrics, I think, voters card that is being introduced. I'm not sure what the status of that is, but that's something obviously to follow up as we head to the general election.
We have 400,000 people. That's like, GM, General Motors have more people in their company than we have in our country. And so, but you understand, and so it's not that many people to get it right. And so these companies have more employees than we have citizens, and they're getting it right. But we can't get it right with a small amount of people.
I think the problem is, Shanique, that things like this goes on the back burner immediately after election, and then as we approach another election, then we got to take care of this. And so you see this problem showing up in a by-election. Of course, I think we need to maximize technology. I think we can do better on this with the voter registration. I live in Golden Isles, and houses have not changed. There's no bunch of vacant apartment and no bunch of vacant houses in Golden Isles. The same way it was, there may be some new ones in there. So even if people died, no people moved in, and children have come off age 18 over the last couple of years. So we've got to do a better job as related to digitizing and modernizing our voter registration system.
The debacle we had last election where they had to remove one parliamentary commissioner and bring someone else in.
That was a local government election.
This one didn't know what he was doing, and that one didn't know what he's doing. A parliamentary commissioner office, a constitutional commission and position. That man gets paid every year to be there. You have a staff. Fix this every year.
Should be working daily.
So, elections only 5 years. In 4 years, you could clean this up. You only come alive on the 4th year. In those first 3 years, make sure the register is fixed. Make sure all of the problems are fixed. Invest in making sure that we can digitalize the register. Make sure that we can integrate these things into all the government agencies so that we don't have to be here. So that on the 4th year or the 5th year, we ain't got to worry about that. It's just like school, I don't understand why every time school opening, the last 3 weeks, we're still trying to paint the school. It's like we've been doing this for the last 50 years. What kind of people are we? We just like to do this like this?
And I think Harrison Thompson alluded to the fact that They are cleaning the register, I think he said, every day. But the fact is, I think we could do a better job. You've got 5 years in between election. I think we should have this thing together by now. Like Cassius said, we have less people than General Motors.
You can hire me as a consultant, and I could fix that problem for you
work that
tomorrow.
deal on the
Listen,
side. Work that. You don't work that on air. You don't work that on air.
I can make sure we can develop a system that'll digitize the whole entire election system. We can use biometrics. We can use iris scan, fingerprint scanning. You ain't got to dip your finger in the ink. You walk into the election poll, and whatever you thinking, that's what you could vote. I could fix that for you.
Absolutely. You talk to them after the show.
So you can hire me as a
Meanwhile,
consultant.
let's shift gears, gentlemen, very, very quickly, because you know it's the Junkanoo season, really. And so after about certainly well over a year, it seems as though things have been ironed out. In fact, the National Junkanoo Committee, NJC, has released the official rules and regulations for the 2025 Boxing Day and the 2026 New Year's Day parades, just 1 month before groups are set to go to Bay Street. A major change this year: no group will face disqualification. Wow. Instead, violations will result in penalties rather than being thrown out of the competition entirely. NJC Chairman Andrew Pinder says the shift is designed to keep group morale high and ensure months of hard work are not wiped away by a single misstep.
Very good.
To stand here today witnessing a long-term investment in Junkanoo from a company whose brand was shaped by creative behemoths like Dr. Off is truly meaningful. Commonwealth Brewery Limited has long demonstrated that they understand the value of investing in Bahamian culture. This agreement is another chapter in that story, one that strengthens our cultural institution and reinforces the importance of private sector partnershiping and building a stronger Bahamas. Partnership like this matters. They give us the stability to grow, innovate, and dream bigger. And while the NJC has a number of exciting new events and products on the horizon,
That is Culture Minister Mario Boleg talking about exactly what those new rules will look like and are, and guidelines, of course, moving forward into the Junkanoo season, which is really about a month away. In fact, just under a month away. Really awesome. Gentlemen, it's good to see things back moving in the direction they should again after a stalemate for quite some time in Junkanoo.
Ellington?
Shanique, I'm happy to hear. I'm telling you, moving through the communities, I heard that the practices have even stepped up, and everybody's in their area practicing almost every night. I'm very happy that things got off, and the minister and those that are involved was able to get this whole thing worked out. And let's go on with the one of the #1 cultural expression in the country, and let's make it good for everybody else. I'm happy of this whole time.
I am too. I'm glad they were able to squash all this nonsense, and I think Junkanoo is very dear to Bahamians. Bahamians really love Junkanoo, and that's the one thing that unify all of us. And so we have to keep our Junkanoo sacred. And so, we're looking forward to the parades. We're looking forward to making sure that we don't have any hiccups. And I'm really looking forward to not seeing any man tweaking on Bay Street.
All right, listen to me. If that's the choreograph, what are you talking about?
I see no man tweaking on Bay Street. Now, the woman can dance, but the men, you all tell us to be tweaking on Bay Street.
Dance like a man. I would cast this.
No, Saxons and y'all don't do that.
Hey, you already talking the wrong thing.
No, I love y'all, but don't do that.
Listen, I thank you both very much, Cassius Stewart, Ellington Ferguson. Thank you very much for being here this evening and for just obviously giving your perspectives, opinions, analysis on the stories of the day. Also, a big thank you to all of you tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed having you along. From the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.